During a crisis, it can be difficult to stay grounded and keep on top of your personal finances. So today, I'm chatting with Yvonne Wong, the Managing Director for Strategic Development of a healthcare fund. She will share how her personal experiences have made her stronger. Yvonne lost both of her parents at a young age, relocated to a new country, and worked 3 jobs when she was just 14 years old. She'll share how financial management helped her gain independence and create valuable experiences, and how volunteering can give you a new perspective in life.
I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, be sure to subscribe and consider leaving us a review and sharing it with your friends.
I'm your host, Philipp Müller, and welcome to another episode of In Your Best Interest, your personal finance podcast. Our guest today has more than 27 years of experience in the financial industry. She began her career in Boston and New York before moving to Hong Kong to work at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and Merrill Lynch, leading sales, capital introduction, and startup consultancy. She was also the CEO of Thaddeus Capital, an event-driven fund, and CEO of Lighthorse Asset Management, a long-short equities fund. Welcome to the podcast, Yvonne.
Thank you so much, Philip, for the kind introduction. It's a great pleasure to be on, and I'm a big fan of StashAway.
Thank you, Yvonne. It's a great pleasure to have you. That's a very impressive resume that you've built up over the last 27 years. From investment banking to healthcare and beyond. So I'm really excited to speak with you. What we like to do in the beginning is actually, find out a little bit more about Yvonne, right, our guest. And maybe you can, share with the listeners, since, we already spoke a little bit about this before, but they won't know, is how you grew up, right? And I think today, especially throughout the podcast, I hope a lot of the listeners actually, one message they get out of it is that you should be embracing adversity and, going through it, because I think you really personify adversity. And maybe you give us a little bit of a rundown, kind of, where did Yvonne's life start?
Thank you so much. I was born in Hong Kong. At a very young life, I lost both of my parents, and I had to immigrate to Florida to live with my uncle and aunt, who were able to take me in. Even through, I would say that would be the first adversity that I've encountered. I would still feel that it's a blessing in my life. Going through adversity is very important. It makes you tougher. One of the things that I want to talk about throughout this, and the message that I want to share with your audience, is the staying power. Is that staying power is not a power, it is perseverance. Okay, it's through thick and thin, through ups and downs, that you stay able to stay in the game. Okay, whatever that game means, staying alive in life, staying in the game of studying, staying in the game of working. But how do you do that? And I'll share one thing that I find very interesting. Okay, I didn't think so when at the time while I was doing it, but I want to share. And this has a lot to do with personal finance. The fact that I start with nothing. And I figure out at a very young age, that was when Krispy Kreme. Okay, Krispy Kreme, I don't remember the exact years, but I'm 100% sure it was in the 80s. It first launched its first branch in Florida, where I live in North Miami. And I realized, wow, this donut shop looks very beautiful. It's green and white with, I believe, is the red logo.
Yeah, and they always have that light sign that comes on, right, when they're doing the new batch of donuts warm.
Absolutely. And it smells good, and it tastes amazing. It melts in your mouth. And I'm not doing a commercial for Krispy Kreme, but it's just incredible. And I recall having one only for the first time for 10 cents. Okay. And I realized, wow, it's amazing. And that instantaneous satisfaction is just, it's just incredible. That experience is incredible. So then I realized, hey, I'm going to try something new. Okay. Because I have 10 cents. I don't have that much money, but let me try with $1 or $1.20. What can I get out of it? So I bought one box. I went early with my friend who had a car because we had to go to the, before school starts, we had to drive to the shop when it's freshly baked and it's the first batch. I bought one box to just test the market, right? So I brought it to school, and then immediately I didn't realize people would pay a quarter. I no one asked, right? They just say, "Well, I like a donut. You have a donut," and then I'm like, "Okay, well, how much do you have? A quarter." So then I realized, okay, someone would buy it for a quarter, and I had 10. I bought it for 10 cents. I would have made, well, back then, 15 cents, right? Each
And
donut.
150% return on your investment. That's pretty good.
Absolutely. And then I sold 12 donuts. Just think about that, and that's a lot of money. I made $1.80, right? But then I realized, so the next time I did it was I collect. So I co-invest, right? I asked friends to put together, more money, and then we went to get 10 boxes, right? For 10 boxes of donuts, I was able to make $18. 18 extra dollars that I would have, once a week, because I usually sell it at Pepperali. So at high school have the sports day. Usually it's like Friday. I remember. I could be
Before
wrong with
before
my.
before football games.
Oh yeah, before football games, and I realized all that sugar. It excited people. It just keep them the energy going. They needed it. In fact, they need. So there's a supply and there's demand, and if it wasn't for the demand, I wouldn't have put together money. And then you save, and every 10 cents meant something. And then what I want to say is, once again, you stash away that 10 cents, and then you could realizing that you could get 15 cents. But 10 cents is not enough to, whether it's 10 cents or you earn the 15 cents, it's not going to be enough for anybody to live in this day and age. I'm talking about back in the 80s, right? And back when I was in high school, I needed very little. But not now that I have families and children, it's not possible to think that I can do that. But that's a bit of arbitraging that uh, I learned at a very young age, that we were able to do that. And of course, then throughout life, I realized everything can be, um, if you put aside that instantaneous satisfaction. So for example, if I put aside the desire to travel, not now, I have no choice because of COVID, that I cannot travel. But let's just say if I put aside that gap year, all right, that I, instead of finishing school, I take a gap year, or I put aside, the money that I would have gone traveling for. I stash away money that I would really like to buy, the watch, that car, that any experience that I want to get, or even think about, hey, let's just, I save now enough money, let's just retire for a little bit and get out of the game, and because I'm kind of tired, and just see, when I feel like to, I come back to the game. For me, when you mentioned my experience, you could see I only had 6 years of break. That's the second story I want to share. um, I have an aunt who came along with me to make sure that both me and my sister were okay when we were moving with my other uncle and aunt. She came along from Hong Kong to Miami. Now, she looked after me for 22 years of my life until I finished university. And then immediately after university, I went to work for a bank called State Street Bank, which is my first employer. They
One of
amazing.
was my first employer
Also, as well, that's amazing.
in
I
Munich.
Munich, I was in
Yes.
Boston. Okay, it
Yes.
was because I went to Boston University. State Street is the number one employer,
Correct.
right? You can see it. They're
Yeah.
amazing.
State Street
Um,
Tower and everything. Yep.
Absolutely, it's a campus, right? It's bigger than universities. And I was very, very, very fortunate. But my so I was sent from State Street, Boston to Hong Kong because of the desire from clients to have same time zone coverage, and State Street had the manpower to do so. So I was 1995. I was sent back to Hong Kong. I started working for them in 1993. I was sent back to Hong Kong in 1995, and I was doing. I believe because back then I must have been doing a good job at a very young age in the career, at a young stage of my career. The first bonus that was given to me, it was shocking. Okay, shocking to me that that there is such thing as bonus and that I would be able to earn it. So in life, we need to be very grateful. I want to share with anyone who is listening to this to be grateful of the opportunity and not to take anything for granted. I had no idea what a bonus is, but with that first bonus, I want to share with everyone that the the one thing and the first thing that came into mind is what can I do for my aunt who looked after me for 22 years? Um, what can I do with that bonus? Before I left Hong Kong, I recall something that my aunt said, your dad is going to be okay. Your dad, when he recovers from his lung cancer, he's going to come to America. And the first thing he's going to do is take us all, my sister, my aunt, and me, to Hawaii. And
How old were you when this was being told?
that was I was, let me see, 95, 96. That was when I was 26 years old. That was
Oh no,
26
I
years.
meant when you first went to the US.
Oh, when I
After
went to the US, 11 years old.
11 years old. Okay.
Yes. So at 26-year-old, getting a bonus, it's incredible. It doesn't matter how much. It was enough to take my sister, my aunt, and me to go to Florida. I flew from Hong Kong to Florida to Boston. Sorry, Hong Kong to Boston, and then I got a ticket for my sister to fly from New York to, because she was studying then. Um, and we all went. I collected my aunt and we went to Hawaii. So I honor the first promise that my father, my beloved father, promised my aunt, and I took her on a vacation. So, I could have done many things with that bonus. Yes, and then I was saying earlier, I was preaching not to have that experience, but I can justify why I had that experience is really to honor the promise that I have made. First, I wasn't expecting a bonus. Doing a good job is expected. Getting a bonus should not be expected. No one should take that for granted. And with that bonus, I was able to I was able to help my father complete his promise to my
Plus,
aunt.
you created an experience that you now still speak about, right? So this obviously had a profound effect, which is,
Absolutely.
which gives you experiences, right? So if people like spending money or spending their save or saving towards experience, I always feel this is much more valuable in the long term than if you're just spending it on the next thing, right? The next thing. There's always, buy it and then you're bored of it after a while. So I think, using the money and bringing people along, right? Because also experience need to be shared. So I think it's a very, very important lesson, I think, here to learn for people. Plus, I think you explained it quite frankly right. I do this in all financial planning sessions. When people tell me, "Oh, this is how much I make. This is my bonus every year," I said, "Hey, well, you should not probably be planning with your bonus, right, for your financial plan, because your bonus
Absolutely.
might not come.
That
So
that is
it's a
right.
bonus. If
That
it
is right.
happens, you can still allocate it to different investments and savings. But
Yes.
you need to plan with a worst case scenario in mind, or like a more pessimistic case, because then if you still make it then to the financial goal that you wanted to achieve, then great, right? If a bonus comes, it will accelerate that plan. But at least plan with what you have, not what you might have in the future.
That is absolutely right. And Philip, the financial planning is so critical. Because in an unconventional or unprecedented time like this right now, it also we have many obviously with my life. I'm 51 years old. I've gone through many crises, but I cannot speak for someone who is 80 years old who's also went through many crises. So in each generation there will be crisis, unfortunately. And for the youngster who are maybe going through university or just trying to start a job, trying to start work, it's I am, my heart is I feel for them. I feel for them right now. How are they doing, right?
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
it's really difficult, right? I think it's, I graduated in 2008, 2009 during the financial
yes,
crisis,
yes,
with a business finance degree. So it wasn't the easiest way to get jobs at that time, right? At all. So I think
absolutely.
I always feel that way, especially now when you can't even, most in the world, you don't even go physically to school, which I couldn't even imagine doing then at that time. But so what is your kind of like what kind of advice do you have for those people that are just in college or even like later on in life? Because I think one part of financial planning is having emergency funds, saving, not just spending money. But
Yes.
how do you think about those two things?
Well, I have to say throughout my career, I've been very lucky because there's always a mentor that somehow I encounter, and they would give me the lift along the way. So it's important to recognize, who are these mentors, and hopefully these the youngsters that if they're listening to StashAway or this podcast, I encourage them to look for who they like to be when they grow up. Don't look too far. Don't have too big of dreams. Sometimes I have to be pragmatic. Right now, we need to. How would I put this? Ground. Be grounded. Stay hungry. The dreams maybe sometimes putting stash, like again, I am going to use stash away. Putting even little finance away, it becomes something. Um, it's not, life is not about successes and failures, and and what it looks like, it doesn't divide into two plots. I mean, if you're looking at Lego, you would have a blue set and a red set, and the blue maybe it looks like success and red looks like failures, but you put together the two, it becomes something. So I would encourage of course, encourage the young generation not to give up. Number one, um, what they are going through, I believe I have gone through, and I cannot say better or worse, but I definitely have gone through. But I'm a survivor, and they can do it too. But it has to be financial planning. Now, right now, you have to be smart about what does financial planning means if I don't have money. Okay, that's a very fundamental question, right? I cannot even pay for my university um, degree, or I cannot get a job, so how would I have money? Now, there are, I would say, humble down, stay hungry. It's okay. This will pass. And as history will tell you, it passes. It passes, and it's going to, when there's down, there's up. When there's a Chinese saying, I don't know if I am I allowed to speak Chinese here? Just
Yes, you can do it. We'll
two
have
words.
someone translate
Yeah,
it.
two words. I gay. This is a phrase. Okay, when there's danger, there's opportunity. I'm sure there's an English phrase for
No,
this
and
too.
I think it's a great way to say it. It goes along the lines a little bit of also, when Warren Buffett said, I think, um, when there's blood in the streets, take advantage, right? Kind of, I'm saying it the wrong way a little bit, but when
Yes,
others, there's always an opportunity even in bad times, right? And I
that's right.
think
That's
you're
right.
saying by being having the adverse, going through that adversity, still grinding away is really, really important. And this, like you said, this is not going to be the only crisis we will face, right? Like I said, I was like, '08 financial crisis, just getting out of school. Now we have, COVID. There will be something else probably 10 years from now, right?
Yeah.
So knowing that, I think, and then grinding, I think, I can't remember, but when we first chatted a while ago, I think you also told me, even at 14 years old, you were holding 3 different jobs.
Good memory. I was just gonna say that. Thank you very much.
But
I
I
mean,
think I want you to explain it, because I think that just shows
yes.
perseverance and grindy and being gritty, right? Going into the places that you might not want to go because you have a degree, or you maybe you lost your prestigious jobs in this crisis, but you still need to put food on the table, right? You still need to save. There are ways to do it, right? And I think
Well,
you're a great example of this. So maybe you want to say a few things about that.
thank you for reminding me because yes, I want to say that. I want to just say, put the ego down. We may not get what we want, but you got to be able to build that staying power. You got to persevere. It's important to at even at 14 years old, I was living off my uncle and aunt. Of they don't have spare money to give me, and I do not want to be a child that burden anyone. So what did I do? Right at 14 years old, I held 3 jobs. Absolutely. So during the week, I was able to I had a job at a restaurant, and I was a in a Thai restaurant. I was a waitress. However, because I was small in size, I'm only a 5'2" woman. But back then, I was probably less than under 5 feet. The restaurant was kind enough not to have me hold large plates, hot plates, or anything heavy. My job was holding, just uh, welcoming the guests, put them down into their seats in the reservation, serve water, and then at the end take menu, take down their food of choices. And then last and not least, I realized, okay, I am the person who is sent to give the checks to the customers. My employer knows how to use me to their advantage. A 14-year-old girl working in a restaurant, it cannot be that good. But I was probably, I mean, it cannot be that good in terms of, hey, this little girl must be pretty desperate. Okay. So the restaurant owner knew to use me to the advantage. It's okay, totally okay. That's how employer employees work. You use your employees to your strength. Equally, as an employee, you use your employer's strength to strengthen yourself. So totally okay. So of course, I was the biggest tip earner, and of course the tips go to the pot. So I do not get I may have a sharing, but it didn't matter to me. My return was at the end of what I was doing. I had a very nice plate of I remember it was pork chop, Thai pork chop with a sunny side egg, because that's my favorite. The restaurant knew it was my favorite, and so I had that once a week. So that was my reward. Okay. So then the second job that I take up is is a fashion boutique, and it was paying me a minimum wage per hour. And you know what? I wasn't good at selling at all. So I was only earning the wages and not the bonuses, right? So again, it's something that I pick up. It's a sales skills that I pick up, which is experience that I will remember forever. What works and what doesn't work, and I observe other people who's working and making the bonuses, getting a cut on their sales. That's brilliant experience. And the third job that I did was because my counselor's husband, my high school counselor's husband, is a lawyer, and he has his own law firm. I was at that time able to work for him on every Saturday morning. So I back in those days, we were still using what do you call it, dictation or dictaphone. Yeah. So he was recording all his thoughts on any cases, and my job was to translate it on a typewriter, on two pieces of paper. Between the two pieces of paper is a carbon paper. So whatever I type up, it makes a copy. It's incredible how how archaic I sound, how dinosaur I sound here.
No, but this is how you become who you are now, right? This is
Well, it's that I learned how to listen. I listen, and I cannot make mistakes, because that impact whatever he is doing, because he put down his thoughts every day. You just cannot put mistakes, I mean any mistakes down, because he is gonna have to read back at these notes, right? So that is something, learning to be very uh, detail oriented, learning to listen. It's all those are core skills that I also pick up.
yeah, and I
Last,
think also like you having at 14 years old 3 jobs on top of school means you're also not doing what most other kids are doing, right? Which is playing outside or playing games all the time after school.
I had
So
no time to do
exactly,
it.
which I think it's like I don't know. I think a lot of people you know take a lot of things for granted in life, and like, oh, I should be getting this job because I went to university and things like that. But I think having that grittiness and doing multiple things at once is it's a lifelong skill, and it just shapes you, right?
It does, and I share one more thing that I am passionate about, and that started at the same young age. Okay, so even with all that, with the school and all the work I've been doing, I also participate in all the clubs at school. So, anything that's academic, it's for me, right? Science club, math club, a debate club. So I participate in all of that. Those are my extracurricular activities. So it's again still work, 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 study, study, study. That's all I am about. But last but not least, one thing I want to share with the audience and stash away is that community service, very important. It does shape your life in many ways. Giving, but I would explain what giving means. Okay, so on Sunday I started with a hospital called Beth Israel, and I was a candy striper. I guess at that time, what drew me to it is uniform. Having a uniform means you, in some way, it's kind of like the movie Catch Me If You Can. Okay, having that captain uniform, you respect it. Kept having the captain uniform you look up to. So for me, I thought being a candy striper, because why it was called candy striper is if you volunteer, or you earned the right to volunteer at any hospital. At those days, they don't do it anymore. They still call it candy striper, but you don't get the pink and white uniform. It's an apron that you put on top, and that shows that you are not a healthcare worker, but in fact you are a volunteer, and we do simple things. I mean, at 14 years old we can only do simple things. So usually is passing around newspapers on Sundays, uh, handing out water, making sure that the patients are comfortable, if not alert the nurses. And then, if at the time they're well enough and I'm able to push them, I would help them discharge and pass them on to the families. Those That's a lovely experience. Of course, there's nothing out of other than giving. Okay, because that's giving my whole Sunday instead of enjoying resting. I actually enjoy, for me, volunteering. So then throughout life I continue on, whether it is when I was working at banks, there's always volunteer program that you can do after work or on the weekend. And that's part of when I realized volunteer work is something I like. But through the volunteer work, you not only meet the underprivileged or the handicap, um, you are able to give. You also build a bonding that is not possible if you are in a comfortable position that you don't feel like bonding with, for example, the same other volunteers who are in the same situation you are, sharing that experience of potentially sadness, potentially uh, you know, desperation. You feel sorry, right? And sympathy, or you empathize with the people that you're volunteering for. And then at the same time, you're building bonding, not only with the people you're volunteering for, but the people volunteering with you. And then you build gratitude in life, gratitude that by giving, you realize how grateful life has been to you, that you're able to give instead of the one be given. And then I would think about, okay, as I build my career, I also build community service as part of my life. So I realize if I can make more, I am able to give more. And that has been part of my, again, I'm sorry, what is the English word? It's part of my, something that kind of lead me to my current life. I still do that. I volunteer. I volunteer. Some organization choose me to be an advisor. Some organization choose me to be a director because they feel like, on the board of directors, they feel like they can use me more. So everything is all about, supply and demand. And supply and demand is a more, as you grow older, supply and demand is no longer a donut, for a quarter. It's or it's more about supply and demand in terms of, okay, what is the demand of services they need right now, and what is the ability of this person that they see in front of them, what can he or she do for the organization, how can we maximize his or her potential in the organization. So what once again, I want to go back to financial planning. If you con if you, first of all, if you're making it, and you're making the extra money, I would definitely have financial planning. I'm never good at it, and that's just why my husband does all the
Yeah,
financial
I was
planning.
just gonna. This was the last two items I did want to discuss with you.
Yes.
Actually, how now that you're very respectable career, right? And we talked about it, and you've been always a very good saver, right? Because you were able to put instant gratification behind savings. So obviously now at 51 years old, where do you stand in terms of finance, and how do you manage your finances more so, right? Like on a day-to-day or yearly basis, like how do you go about it with your husband?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share. We divide and conquer. Okay, he actually manage assets, right? So he's a multifamily office partner. He manage assets for for very successful business owners of Greater China. Okay, so not only that, because that's his skills, and in our household, that's his skills. He manages assets, and he manages assets for us, right? My role is, I continue to do what I do. I grind away. I don't look at finance in the same way he would look at it. He would do checks and balances. He would make sure we budget things. If we go on a vacation, how much we're going to spend. He would look for the best deals. No matter how much money we have, we should always look at the best deals. And I always trust him. He always gives to us the best. Same way I would do is, there's no, you mentioned earlier breadwinner, right? We have to put bread on, not winner, but put bread on the table. I believe both of us contribute in putting bread on the table. We ensure, that we have funding aside, save up for our children, and you have a great program in terms of, what is your goal? What are your goals, for example, in life, right? What do you want to do with your money? whether it is I would like to create a financial planning for university. That's probably shorter term goals because I have two teenagers, right? I would like to have planning for what if we leave the world? What's the planning for our children if they are still underage, right? That would be trust planning, or there would be a lot of legacy planning. But that's a bigger one. But what about simple things like retirement? It's not going to happen for me because I have intention to work till the last day of my last breath. So the retirement plan is not going to be in my agenda. However, it may be from a standpoint of, if I have a choice in life, what I like to do is be able to give. I would never be a Warren Buffett. I would never be a Bill Gates. I would never be a Jeff Bezos. But for me, if I can spend the rest of my life not thinking about money, that I need to pay for my health care, that I need to pay for my children's education, that I not have to worry about my living expenses, I'm more than content to be volunteering every day of my life until my last breath.
But I
That's
think this comes back to what you were saying, and I think always when I do financial planning with clients, it's the same thing. The term retirement is almost outdated, right? We live for so much longer, knock on wood, of course, but our life expectancies are going up, and we have it's not like at 55 when a lot of people always say, "Oh, I want to retire at 50 or 55." Well, do you really want to retire and never work again? I think it's much better to term it financial freedom, right? So maybe at 55 you have the choice to quit your day-to-day job because you have enough savings and you can volunteer. I always actually mention that word. Or maybe you want to work for a non-profit where you can make a lot less money, right? So it's your choice though, and I think having the choice is really what comes down to financial freedom, right? You feel free of the pressure of having to do the daily grind, and then you
yes.
can still do other things. But it's not like we all stop working that day, right? That's what I always try to tell people. It's not like all of a sudden you become for the next 40 years in retirement you're not doing anything. It doesn't make any sense nowadays, right? I think it's a very
No.
outdated
Yeah.
thinking around that.
That does not make any sense whatsoever. You're absolutely right. Retirement is an outdated term. Um, well, let alone that youngsters today has to think about surviving to begin with. My children equally the same. I mean, they cannot expect, okay, mommy and daddy will take care of them for the rest of their lives. Who knows? I mean, I lost my parent. I lost both of my parents. I lost my mom first, then I lost my dad, right? My dad, I was 14 years old. He was still in Hong Kong, but he passed away, right? He never made it to America to meet up with us, and that scarred my life. But in a sense, I'm not sad about it because it made me tougher. I lost him, but I had my aunt, and she's the best thing in life. She looked after me actually. 22 years of my life. I look after her 22 years of her life. She passed away at 94. So 44 years of life together. That's amazing. But how do you do that? If I don't have savings, how would I be able to look after her? Let alone looking after myself. But it's the same expectation that youngster would have these days, right? I hope whoever is listening to this, right? You have to look at, now you are in college or you are starting to look for work. It's difficult. Right now, this generation is a bit luckier when I'm talking about the ones that are in university looking for work during those COVID time, because there are parents like me at my age, right, 50s, 60s, that has worked throughout their lives and able to have the saving that we my thinking, whether it is plan or not plan, it is something that is natural to do because we went through such a few crises already. I mean, the recent ones is obviously COVID, but the last one is '08, and as you pointed out, and then I went through '03 SARS, And then, of course, there is, crisis in the 90s. There's crisis in the 80s. So, went through so many. Hey, if you forgot to save the first time and it's suffering, remember to save the next time. But I mean,
Yeah.
before
History repeats itself. One way, it comes not always in the same way back, but it's with a different way, it still shows up, right?
Yes. That is it. So yeah, that's what I want to share is just remember to, it's hard, but it does go away. It does go away and it will come back up. But be there when pay attention to every opportunities out there. It does not work out in life exactly the way you want to be. You may be studying for psychology and you want to be a psychologist. You might end up to be in a great finance as a management firm, and you may be a Wendy at SAC. The in the show The Billions.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we should associate it to billions. I'm just saying
No,
that
I know.
you never know. I actually funny enough, I will share this with you. Even though I studied biology and chemistry in my first year of university, and that's the pure reason my aunt, who's very dear to me, want me to be a pharmacist, right?
Yeah.
I never thought I wanted to do that, but I did it because she said, and I had actually clueless of what I want to do in life, honestly. But so I listened to that, but I wasn't good at it. But I never thought that I would end up in banks and end up working for so long to now. I had worked in both sell side and buy side. But the key thing is, as I was thinking what I'm going to do, you know, before studying biology and chemistry, I actually thought I want to be a flight attendant, but I was too short, so I was never gonna make it anyway. But I wanted to be flight attendant. I wanted to work for Pan Am. Not kidding, Pan Am. But Pan Am is such again. I dated my life. I don't
I
know
know,
how.
but it was a very like, aspiring
Beautiful
thing. Pan Am
uniform.
was a great brand. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I wanted to travel the world. I thought, being a flight attendant I would, but now I learn, being a flight attendant, nothing wrong with it. It's just you will be going through the same route over and over and over again until you get to the next, you get promoted, and but you don't see the world being for one, because it depends on where the airline is going, so you may not see the world. But through working in my career, so many years, I get to see the world, whether it is on business trip, or of course I earn enough money that I can see the world, but you have to earn. So not only you want the experience, but you have to work very, very, very hard, and it's going to be harder now than ever because of the difficulty that the world is facing with COVID. There's but I have to say, I'm not going to say anything negative. I'm giving you guys, everyone who's listening to this, positivity. You
Yeah,
can
and
do it.
I think you did. I think you outlined a lot of good things and takeaways for our audience. So really, really, really appreciate you coming on, Yvonne.
Thank you so much, Philip, for including me.
That's it for the show this week. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave us a review. The reviews really help us, and we love reading your comments as well. In Your Best Interest is hosted by me, Philipp Müller. We're produced by StashAway, and we're mixed by Mo Ramley. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified whenever we have new content out for you. Also, don't forget to download the StashAway app. It's available in the Apple App Store as well as the Google Play Store. So you can start on your financial journey right now.